A new Nintendo Switch eShop patent could be bringing a much requested feature to the storefront. And to the surprise of, well, absolutely no one, the Skyward Sword HD situation involving amiibo is getting worse the more we learn about it. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and be sure to like and share the video because, well, I'm a little bit upset about the Knicks game last night. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. So when it comes to the Nintendo Switch eShop, I've said it before and I've said it again, it's not really the most intuitive thing in the world. It definitely has a lot of problems. It lacks a lot of quality of life features that, well, we'll talk about quality of life stuff going on throughout this video, but of course the fact that it's very barren and sterile and doesn't have any music when you play. There's tons of games that just bombard you right at the start of it, and it's very hard to navigate sometimes and just find games that you might actually be interested in. But one thing that's been heavily requested for the Nintendo Switch eShop is some sort of rating system when it comes to this, because a lot of these games you really don't have any clue if they're good or not. You pretty much have to research it online, and a lot of these games don't end up getting mainstream publications to cover them because they're smaller indie titles. They're games that sort of fly under the radar. So while you can find information on YouTube and things like that, wouldn't it be nice to have some sort of rating system for these games that you could see right at the forefront of when you're checking out a game to get information on it? Well, a new patent has actually been approved. It was actually approved in the month of April. That was actually found by Game Rant and then reported by Nintendo Life. I will have a link to it in the description box down below, but it looks like some sort of rating system and recommendation system could be coming to the Nintendo Switch eShop at some point in time. Basically, in this patent, it says the following. In certain example embodiments, a computer system for generating an implicit video game rating is provided. The system generates a base rating that is the function of gameplay data for a specific user and other users. This system also generates an average external rating for the video game based on external data categories such as user reviews, critic reviews, ownership data, etc. An adjustment factor is then calculated from an average base rating and external rating, and then applied to the user's individual base rating to obtain an implicit rating of the video game for the user. Now, yes, that sounds very convoluted and kind of crazy, but that's sort of how these patents work. The way I read this is it looks like there will be some sort of user review scores coming to the Nintendo Switch eShop, so that way basically people can sort of figure out if the game sucks or not, which is not a feature that hasn't been on Nintendo platforms before. The Wii U had the ability to rate games based on if you liked them or not. Now, of course, some people might be a bit concerned because when you look at things like Amazon ratings and stuff like that, there's a lot of fluff ratings and whatnot, but I think this would be a good feature to have on the Nintendo Switch eShop because, well, like I said, there are tons of games on the Switch eShop, and it can be very confusing to find out if a game is good or not. The fact that this isn't something that's implemented on the Switch eShop already is kind of bizarre. Now, I think they could also extend it to sort of like recommended games based on what games you like, based on what games you've purchased, and based on what games you've played. Now, there is an image to go alongside of this. I'll put it up on the screen now. Basically, you know, it's just saying what I just said, sort of breaking it down into more layman's terms, but I do find the whole critic thing to be kind of interesting. If they're factoring in critic ratings, I would assume this would come from Metacritic, so maybe there would be like a Metacritic score and then a user score based on these Nintendo Switch eShop games. Now, like I said, a lot of these eShop games don't even get critic review scores because they're smaller games or there's just so many that come out at a time. You can see that, you know, a lot of games don't actually have an overall Metacritic score because there are 4 review scores that are required to be on Metacritic, and a lot of these only get 1 or 2. So I would be interested to see how that factors in, but this is something that I think would be very good for the Nintendo Switch eShop. Like I said, it is a pain in the ass to navigate it. It's a pain in the ass to find things on there that maybe you're interested in based on your previous purchases or based on games you like. So something like this could be a big win for Nintendo. Now, of course, this is just a patent, so there is the chance that Nintendo never implements it, and, you know, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I definitely would like to see this implemented into the Nintendo Switch eShop because I think it would be a much valued feature for a lot of people who maybe aren't that privy to the internet and don't get on the internet and watch YouTube videos all the time, unlike you who watches me, so thank you. Thank you. And finally, last week on the channel, we talked, of course, about the Skyward Sword HD amiibo situation. Now, if you missed out on that video, I do suggest you guys go check it out. But if you just want a brief synopsis of what happened, basically, The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is, of course, coming out on the Nintendo Switch in the month of July. We learned about a new amiibo that was coming out for Skyward Sword HD as well, and immediately there were some red flags with this situation for me. Now, yes, it is a nice looking amiibo that includes Zelda and Loftwing on it. You know, it looks pretty cool, but one of the red flags was definitely the price of this amiibo, coming in at $25, thus making it the most expensive amiibo to date. You know, amiibo used to be like $13, $14, $15, and now all of a sudden this one is $25. Now, I guess maybe it's because it's a bit more intricate, but still, that does seem kind of weird. Then we, of course, learned about the whole quality of life improvement that was being added into Skyward Sword HD via the amiibo only. The ability to transport out of any area from the game and immediately go to the sky, or vice versa. Now, if you've ever played Skyward Sword, you would know that that's actually a big feature that was in the game, but you can only do it at certain checkpoints in the game. But now you can do it anytime, any place, anywhere via this amiibo, and only via this amiibo. So a major quality of life improvement is being hidden behind this amiibo, which I just don't like. I feel like if any other company did this, they would be called out for it. And I feel like a lot of Nintendo fans sometimes just give Nintendo a pass on things like this, but I am not one of those people. I will always call out any sort of company that I feel is just doing something stupid or scummy in order to get people to certainly buy something. And this is a situation that I feel definitely is like that, because you're putting behind a quality of life improvement behind this amiibo, and only behind this amiibo. But since then, there has been, of course, some more things that we've discovered with this. One of the main things we've learned that is that no other amiibo will work with Skyward Sword HD. The only amiibo that works with the game is the new Zelda and Loftwing one, which, I don't know, I just find that very strange, because a lot of Zelda fans have purchased other Zelda amiibo. Think of all the different Zelda amiibo that have come out over the years, and most of these worked with other Legend of Zelda games that came out for the Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Wii U. Now, granted, these weren't like huge additions to the game, but there were little things like get some more life, improve your health, maybe get some items or something like that, that just sort of added to the game for purchasing these Zelda amiibo. We're talking about the 35th anniversary of Zelda this year, and you're not going to let people use their other Zelda amiibo on the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. The only one you can use is the Loftwing and Zelda one that costs $25, but does it cost $25? Because that's another problem that has definitely been happening with this amiibo. So let's take a look here over on eBay. Now, remember, this is not actually out yet. It does not come out until the month of July, but this $25 amiibo is now selling for $55, $65. These are sold listings for this amiibo. These are not just people putting up things. $70. Somebody paid $70 for this amiibo. Now, of course, why is this happening? Because people are scalping them. People are buying them up the second they go on Amazon or on GameStop's website and then scalping them. The whole thing of COVID impacting how you pick up things in stores. You're not actually going to the store and camping out for this amiibo and hoping and waiting and then reselling it. No, 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 no. You are simply buying this online, buying probably large quantities of them online, and then flipping them. And it's just like, it's so disgusting. I hate things like this. If you want to go out there and you want to, you know, camp out and buy this amiibo, that's one thing. You want to go to a bunch of different stores, waste your gas money, that's one thing. But just to simply sit there and click a button at the right time to get this amiibo, and you know, people are willing to pay for this thing because it's going to be hard to get. Amiibo can be very valuable, as we've seen before in the past when they are specific to certain games, and this being specific to this game, hiding behind a quality of life improvement just completely sucks. So for me, this whole situation is really just a major L for Nintendo. Like, I don't get putting behind something that's going to improve the game in terms of quality of life behind an amiibo. I don't understand the justification behind that. And then the fact that this amiibo is going to be hard to get. It's already hard to get. It's already selling out. Look at those Zelda controllers that were also announced, the Joy-Cons for The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. Those sold out instantaneously. It's not like Nintendo doesn't know that this happens. Of course they know what happens. Of course they see the scalping. Of course they see these things being bought up in massive quantities. So now that people are actually giving into this and paying these exorbitant prices for it, it just encourages people to scalp more. It encourages Nintendo to do things like these limited things where if you want something to improve your game, you're going to have to buy this additional feature. I don't like it. Now, I still will be buying Skyward Sword HD because this is the only mainline Legend of Zelda game that I've never finished because I was not a fan of the motion controls. But it's definitely leaving a bad taste in my mouth. If you're okay with this, like, good for you. I'm happy. If you could somehow justify this in your mind and make everything feel okay with this situation, then that's good. You know, you have good coping skills and good coping mechanisms. But for me personally, just looking at everything on the surface level, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, hopefully Nintendo will release more of these amiibo so that, you know, people will actually be able to utilize this quality of life feature instead of just buying this amiibo to make a quick buck. But you never really know with this situation. So hopefully the rest of the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary is handled in a bit of a better manner, because as of right now, it's honestly been a bit disappointing. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know what you think of everything in the comments section down below. Do you see improvements coming to the Nintendo Switch eShop, or is Nintendo just going to kind of leave it the way it is and not implement anything into it? And the Skyward Sword HD controversy. Are you buying into this? Do you think it is a problem that this quality of life improvement is hidden behind an amiibo that you can no longer buy at the highest amiibo price of $25 because everyone already bought them and scalped them and now you have to pay $55? Or are you cool with spending over $100 to play Skyward Sword HD to have the quick teleport feature? And as always, folks, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Check out other videos on the channel. Yes, the Knicks lost last night. It sucks, but it is what it is. It's going to be a long series, and I'm still very hopeful for the Knicks. And as always, folks, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.